the first 10 to 30 days, depending on what your service business is, but the first 10 to 30 days of an interaction with a new client is the most important. And that's when you'll win them. That's when you'll turn them into raving fans.
You need to understand what that client is going through post-purchase. Essentially, they're excited, they're nervous, they're unsure, they're not quite trusting.
Yep. If you can actually get your head out of a lot of the other stuff that you're probably doing, you'll have time to do this. Or you could sit down and you could do a bunch of handwritten thank you notes.
Everybody likes money. Everybody needs money. That's where you go into business. But you don't always stay in the same position because of the same amount of money.
No.
It's got to be, there's more to it than that.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. They say you only get one chance to make a good first impression. In this episode, we're going to talk about how you can wow your clients with a first impression. Let's get that underway.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. I want to talk about onboarding. Now, you could use this for your team, but in this case, we're specifically talking about onboarding new clients. And what we want to talk about are how do you make a great first impression for your clients, and then how do you create a system for that so that it doesn't rely on your efforts. Again, this is all part of scaling you out of the business. And in the chair with us is Caroline. Welcome.
Oh, magic stars.
I know.
Today.
Well, you always come and sprinkle magic dust in everything that we talk about. All right. So we ran a session like this for our mastermind members today, in fact,
Yes.
on onboarding. And we said that the concept is to make a good first impression. There's a number of ways you can do it. And I think the first thing we said was to personalize or tailor make onboarding experience, your initial connection with the client. So we're talking here about a service client. If it's a retail business, somebody's listening to the podcast and they're talking about, well, how does that apply to me in a retail business? That would be making the first time that they approach your counter something special by having, whether it's having, samples or some kind of a scripted or systemized greeting process. But let's talk about service businesses. If we're talking about tailoring an onboarding experience, have you got ideas on what that might look like?
Sure. I know with Mastermind, when a part of our onboarding process is, it's to explain how they can get the best out of the program, how to really get the best out of Mastermind.
Yep.
But from the backstage sort of part of it, what we do is we have a welcome box, which gives them what we call it's an information pack. It's got little prezzies in there that we know they'll love, and we hand make those internally, as opposed to getting them sort of filling in an order form from the local gift box and having that sent out. So it's always small personalized things that we do as a part of that initial onboarding.
Now, in case you're listening to this and you go, hang on a second, Mark, wait a minute. You just said, how do we systemize things so it's not relying on me? And then Caroline's gone, oh yeah, well, we personalize these boxes. But what we've done is we've got a checklist. So anybody can do it. You don't do it.
I don't do it.
I don't do it.
I don't do it.
We did.
Yes, I did.
Right. Oh, we did when we first started doing this. We did personalized boxes.
Yep.
We would go out and shop for the stuff, and we'd make up a box, and we would take it to the post office, and we would post it. And so we don't do any of that, but we've got a checklist for what goes in it.
We've actually got more than a checklist that goes in. It's a checklist, and also part of the procedure is an actual photo of what it needs to look like. So there's set expectations of what that. We're very clear on what that looks like, because it needs to be a level of standard that goes with that on every single.
Right, so it's not just stuff trucked in a box.
Okay.
It's actually got to have an appearance as well.
Yeah.
So we have a checklist, we have a photo, we've got a system, and pretty much anybody could come in and do that for us.
Yes.
Right. So tailor making the way that you welcome somebody into your business in the first place. These ideas, Caroline, came from a book called The Power of Moments, and I'm sure I've mentioned it in previous episodes of this podcast, by Chip Heath. and The Power of Moments. It's a great book, but it just talks about the importance of making a first impression. In fact, one of the things it says is that the first 10 to 30 days, depending on what your service business is, but the first 10 to 30 days of an interaction with a new client is the most important. And that's when you'll win them. That's when you'll turn them into raving fans, right? And so that's what we're talking about here today. What are the things that you do in the first 10 days? The other thing that we spoke about this morning was the concept of proactive communication, right? So that's about getting in front of things, actually reaching out to someone and making a call, communicating in advance. So let's talk about that. I mean, let's talk about Mastermind. What do we do in Mastermind?
Yeah, everybody knows that, honeymoon period. It's all when you buy something, you sort of go through that. Oh, should I have done that? Should I have done that? But you're excited, but you're nervous. You're really unsure.
Yeah, buyer's remorse, right?
Buyer's remorse.
Yeah,
and
100%.
then you buy and you go, oh, this is exciting. This is exciting. But then you sort of there's a patch. You need to understand what that client is going through post purchase. Essentially, they're excited, they're nervous, they're unsure, they're not quite trusting.
Yep.
But they know that there should be trust there, but they're not quite sure how that works just yet.
Yep.
They haven't quite got their feet on the ground. So you need to sort of be able to have certain touch points, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a video from another member, for example, saying, working through the process of what they're going through right now,
Yep.
and acknowledging what those feelings may be for them.
Yep. I think that proactive communication, because I know one of the things that we do in Mastermind when somebody joins is you touch base with them by phone at sort of week 2 and go, hey, just check in to see how you're traveling. And again, that doesn't have to be done by you. That can be done by anybody. That's scripted. We know it's calendared, it's diarised, it's scripted, it's good to go. Anybody could do it. But again, it's that proactivity. It's not waiting for them to reach out and go, I'm a bit stuck or I'm not sure. But it's proactively saying to them, how you're traveling.
Yeah.
But also on the stick thing, we've also got that unstick call concept as well, right? Where people can sort of go, well, at any time you can, and we've created a system for it. So we've used Calendly, you click on a link, you find a time, and we call them. It's dead simple and easy for them to do. So proactive communication. Number 3, and I really like this one, exceed expectations early. So I think that comes down to if you've set up some certain expectations around what your clients can expect from you or get from you. One of the things that we always do in Mastermind is we try to find a quick win. Yeah. So in the very early days, it's how do we get you a really quick win? How do we solve a problem for you very quickly? Most of the people that come to us, the issue for them is not so much about how do they make more money in their business. Most of them are already quite happy with that. It's how do I actually just get more time?
Yeah. I think that when you're in your business, you can be quite clouded in your judgment and, often making just a small tweak, a small change, a 1% focus on something will give you an extra 2 hours a week. And it can be such a small thing that will get you such a big win.
Yeah.
But because you are too close, you can't see it. And, having those mentors that are there. I mean, I know I have, I have mentors and they'll sort of say to me, Caroline, just do that. And you think, why didn't I think of that? Because it's not rocket science. They're not. You don't have to have a master's degree in whatever it is. It's just that you were just too close.
No, I mean I often say I'm no guru. It's just the 2 things that I hear the most commonly as a coach are I know that or I used to do that, right? And we always go, well, I know you know it, but you're not doing it. Or I know you used to, but you stopped. But the concept of a quick win. So most clients come to us and they sort of go, I'm not spending time with my partner, I'm not spending time with my kids, I'm not doing the things that I love in my life. I've stopped doing my hobbies. And so it's kind of just no fun. Like the reason they got into the business into their own business in the first place was so they would have that level of freedom, right? Yeah. So they could go, well, not that you can work whenever you want or take holidays whenever you want or pay yourself whatever you want. We all know that's just bullshit. But just to have that flexibility and options open to them. That's why you take the risk of going into your own business. And then it turns into that's the exact opposite of what they've actually got. So if we can find them a win, which is, in a heartbeat, I can find you half a day a week. In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I can actually create half a day a week for you. Now you can go spend that with your partner or your kids or your dog or...
Yeah, it doesn't... it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't always be either, to be honest, a monetary value.
No.
Everybody likes money. Everybody needs money. That's why you go into business. But you don't always stay in the same position because of the same amount of money.
No.
It's got to be, there's more to it than that.
Well, it's really interesting because one of the questions I know that you ask, prospects when they apply to join Mastermind is you always say to them, if we're having the conversation in
12 months' time.
What would it look like? Mm-hmm. Very rarely does, a ton more money feature in the answer.
No, probably in maybe 30% of the time. People have, wouldn't mind. And it's often not a really clear amount. It's not, I want to have, $6.2 million in whatever it is. It's never that.
Yeah.
It's never that.
Yeah. So in most cases, most of the people that join us in Mastermind are already making good coin, but they're just working like dogs to get it.
Yeah.
And so they've become a slave. So I think these are the sort of things that if you can automate these processes, we're talking about making a good first impression, and we're sort of using what we do as an example. But again, if you can systemize this, you're far more likely to get past that honeymoon period. You're far more likely to get past that buyer's remorse, and people are far more likely to stay. So you can come up with these ideas and then you can just systemize them. All right, so we've looked at a personalized onboarding, some proactive communication, and a quick win. What about surprise upgrades or an add-on?
Well, everybody likes a little bonus.
That's right.
Everybody likes a little something. It's fun. It's fun to give a little add-on.
Yep.
It's nice to know that you're going that little extra mile, doing something super, a little bit special for somebody else. But it's really nice to receive that as well. As a consumer, whether it's service or a retail, it's nice to know that there's a little extra something that is just for you. But it's probably not just for you, but it might. But it appears to be just for you.
But you know what's really interesting about that is when we raised this in our Friday session this morning, a couple of our members sort of went, we can't really give a bonus or an upgrade. It doesn't really. And then we went, well, you can, because what about a book from the founder? Or what about a phone call from the CEO? Or what about, and we're talking about handwritten notes, but what about sort of a note of some sort, a welcome call? What about, one of the directors, arranging to have a coffee? I mean, all these little bonuses. What about access to something? What about an invitation to a lunch or a dinner or a charity event? Or, there's a whole bunch of things. And I reckon that often people get a bit confused thinking that, a bonus has to be like an upgrade to first class or something, which is like massive, like, wow, how good's that? It doesn't have to be that big, does it?
It doesn't have to be that big. It doesn't have to be that expensive. Having said that, if anyone wants to send me a bonus bottle of Irish whiskey, not a problem.
Sure. Or upgrade to first class.
Sure. But, sometimes it's just not a monetary thing. It is just a phone call, like you said. It is hey, I was just thinking about this for you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. All right. So number 5, handwritten thank you notes. So I made the comment this morning that in the mail, I check the mailbox every day when I go home, and there's only 3 things that I find in the mailbox. Actually, 4 things. A heap of stuff from the bank, even though I've told them 1,000 times not to send me mail, just to send it by email. Something from the local politician. Something from the local real estate agent. Or a speed camera thing. Right? It's about right, though.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
And can I just say, the last few speed cameras have actually not been for me.
They're not for me either.
Yeah. Anyway, if you were to get something that's handwritten, and again, we're talking about, you could level the criticism. Well, hang on a second, Mark. We're talking here about how do we scale somebody out of the business so it's less reliant on them. You know what? If you can actually get your head out of a lot of the other stuff that you're probably doing, you'll have time to do this. Or you could sit down and you could do a bunch of handwritten thank you notes, at once. But so it's possible to be systemized. But a handwritten note, how valuable do you think a handwritten note is?
I think it's lovely. Sometimes you stay in a hotel and and you're staying in a suite and you get a letter from the manager.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be that the manager just put in there, hey, Caroline and Mark from the general manager.
Yep.
You sort of think you're super special to a lot of ways. You know that it's just a generic thing, but that's still okay.
Caroline, I reckon there's 2 other things that you could do. One is exclusive access to resources. So when people join us, they get access to a hub.
Yep.
You only get access to the hub if you remember, right? But you know what? That's really simple to do, because if you're in a service business, you probably have a whole bunch of articles or white papers or videos or whatever that you've produced that you can just put into a Dropbox folder
Yep.
and only give access to your clients. Now, it's a little bit easier for us. It's password protected and all that sort of stuff, and people leave Mastermind, we take them out of the hub. But it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? And we use like Memberium or MemberMouse we've used in the past.
Memberium.
And there's even simpler programs now to be able to use that. But just something again, that's a little bit personal, a little bit exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something, resources that you use internally might be able to help one of your clients.
Yep.
Might be personal, obviously, or
Yeah.
private to the business, but you could share resources that work in your business that might work in their business or something like that for sure.
And I think the last thing is to celebrate milestones together. If they've been with you for 30 days or 60 days or 3 months or 3 years or whatever it might be, but to actually make that a celebration. So it's not just a note, hey, thanks for being here for 12 months. It's a phone call or it's a package if there's the ability for you to share that on your socials or if you've got a member newsletter or whatever it might be, but a way of actually sharing that celebration.
Yeah, it's a good thing, and that the power behind sharing wins and values and those sorts of things it's often more than you would expect it would be.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Great chat. These are the sort of things we teach our clients all the time in our mastermind program, metropolmastermind.com.au. Love to have a chat to you about how we can show you how you can use these things to actually generate some extra time and freedom for you and your business. Until we chat next time in the Mastermind for Business podcast, please make sure you spend time with those who matter most.